Good morning, everyone. My name is Amanda Miles, and I'm the Compassion Pastor at the Meeting House. So I have the privilege of working alongside all of our pastors and compassion coordinators as together we try and champion our compassion goals. So as a church, we want to be actively and relationally engaged in compassionate partnerships both locally and globally. Today, we're at the final week of our series called Almost Normal. And in the first week, we heard from Blake Martin, who taught us that if we want to make a key change in our lives, then we need to get our bodies actively involved in the learning process. In week 2, we were challenged by Mark Buchanan to see people through the heart of Jesus. And that if we want to be ready to say yes to God in the big opportunities that He might bring our way, we first need to get good and practice by saying yes in the smaller things. And then last week, we heard from Andrew Williams, and he reminded us that living with Jesus is like having a river of life inside of us that moves us and motivates us to action. And so I think we'll find all of those themes present in today's talk. And I'm so excited to introduce you to our final Almost Normal guest, Issa Ebombolo. So let's welcome Issa today, shall we? Throughout this series, we have been circling the book of Romans, really trying to look at what it means to live a radical life that goes beyond normal. So we're going to start out this morning by doing some reading together of Romans 12. So verses 9 to 13, let's read them all out. Don't just pretend to love others, really love them. Hate what is wrong, hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection, and take delight in honoring each other. Never be lazy, but work hard and serve the Lord enthusiastically. Rejoice in our confident hope. Be patient in trouble and keep on praying. When God's people are in need, be ready to help them and always be eager to practice hospitality. So that is a great verse and passages for us to be thinking about as we listen and learn about Issa and some of his life. Just as a brief way of introducing him, Issa was born in Burundi and spent most of his childhood growing up in the Congo. And then in 1996, when there was a war, he needed to flee as a refugee and move to Zambia. And before we start chatting with Issa to hear some of his journey, I wanted to kind of give us a little bit of understanding of the context in Zambia, specifically around the context of AIDS. The current statistics report that 13% of Zambians are living with HIV or AIDS, and it's actually higher than that in many other countries in Southern Africa. And I know when I think of that number, I have a hard time imagining what that actually looks like. So we're going to take a look what that looks like in this room here today. So whether you're in Oakville or at a regional site, wherever you are, I want you to stand up on your feet. And I'm going to do this with you because I know it's a little bit awkward to stand up. You can shake it out a little bit. A little known fact is that 13% of Canadians own a Toyota. So if you are a Canadian that owns a Toyota, just one person per vehicle, you stay standing. Everyone else, you can have your seats again. And so if we look around, the stats might be a little bit skewed at different sites, depending. But basically, this is what 13% looks like. And this is the percentage of the population in Zambia who are living with HIV and AIDS. Now, if you have a family member currently standing, you stand back up again right now, because you represent the family members that are most significantly impacted having someone in your family with AIDS. Finally, if you are in home church with anyone standing, I want you back up on your feet as well, because you represent the very close friends and supporters and caregivers of those people living with HIV and AIDS. Okay, thanks for doing that. You can have your seats again. Our conversation today is not primarily focused around HIV and AIDS, but I do want us to have it in our minds that it is the backdrop to this conversation. AIDS is not only a medical issue that requires a medical response. It is an issue that affects every area of life. The family unit, culture, religion, politics, economy. And so keep that in mind as we hear from Issa about some of the work that he is involved in today. So, Issa, I've just told everyone that Zambia is your home, and yet here you are in Canada. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing here?
I came last year in September for my studies, and I'm doing my master's in peace and conflict studies at Conant Grebo at the University of Waterloo.
Excellent. And so what were you doing previously in Zambia that would bring you to do those studies here in Canada?
I was running an organization called Peace Clubs in Zambia. And this organization is all about empowering young people and adults in peace and conflict resolution.
Okay, so this is something that we don't really have in Canada. We haven't really heard of what is a peace club. So can you tell us who would go to a peace club and what do you do at a peace club?
Oh, good question, Amanda. I know Peace Club is a new context in Canadian, background. So Peace Club, it's an organization which creates a platform where young people, especially those who are in high schools between the age of 15 and 24, they meet once in a week where they share their experiences, their struggles of life, their problems, their challenges, and they think together critically to find a solutions to those problems that they're experiencing. Yeah.
That's great. Now, I know you've got a really interesting journey, and
Yes.
I wonder if you could tell us, so back up the story a little bit, and tell us how did you become involved in peace work,
Okay.
and even go right back to your early years and why you chose to follow Jesus in the first place.
Oh, good. I have a long story, which I'm going to cut it short.
Yeah.
I was born in Burundi. And why I was born in Burundi is because my parents who were living in Congo, when war broke in Congo before 1969, they decided to run away in Burundi. And by then, I was in the womb of my mother. So while my parents were refugees in Burundi, I was also a refugee in the womb of my mother. So I was born on October 09, 1969. I have no fear to disclose that because I'm told in Canadian context you don't just tell your age anyhow.
Yeah.
And so when I was born, already I was born with this status as a refugee. And when I was 7 years old, my parents decided to go back to Congo because I needed education. So after spending my primary school or elementary school and high school, my parents decided to divorce, and my father married another woman or wife, and I remained with my mother. And we were 5 in our family, and my mother had to take this, burden of raising us as a single parent. So it was very tough and a hard, difficult task, especially in supporting us in school. In Canada, you are lucky you have free education, but in Africa, very few countries have free education. So parents needed to work hard to raise money for the education of their children. And this is what my mother did. And I really owe her all the respect because she did a lot of work. And this makes me to respect women so much. I'm not biased. I also respect men as well. Just during when I finished my high school level, something very important clicked into my mind. And this was my transition from Islam to Christianity. My both parents were Muslims. Their forefathers were Muslims, and so I was just born in Islamic environment, and I became Muslim automatically without negotiation. So what made me to decide to receive Christ as my personal savior is because of the life I experienced in Islamic. as Muslims, we're given a long list of rules and laws that we supposed to respect. And once you break one, then you have broken all the laws. And one of them is you need to fast for 40 days, within 1 year. And it is a must without any request. You have to do that. And you have to pray 5 times a day. If you just pray 3 times, you have to do your best and make sure that you made the 5 times. So it was a very stressful life. And when you are living under law, you are not free. You are not a free person because there are all these strings attached to your life that you needed to respect. And I thought that was so hard. So I came across a certain person who preached to me the life of Christ. And I said, in Christ, we are not living under law, but we are living under grace. And I was attracted by this word grace. And I asked him to explain more about grace, and he gave me a little bit of explanation about grace, and I discovered that when you are in the grace of Jesus Christ, you are a free person. You are living in liberty. Of course, there are some principles that you need to respect as a Christian. And I was very comfortable with that. So this is what made me to leave Islamic and join Christianity. It was very hard because I experienced a lot of threats to my life, and I was ready for that. As you know, it's not an easy decision. And that was the biggest decision that I've ever made in my life. So, I was a Christian. In 1996, war broke in Congo. I decided to leave the country because the rebels and the government soldiers were looking for intellectuals to join the army. And I was not ready to contribute to any kind of violence in my country or in Africa. So I left my country and I found myself in Zambia in a refugee camp. It was not an easy life or easy experience because I found myself in a bush, in a refugee camp, left my home, and I found myself in a tent, and it was not easy. Every time I remember this experience, some tears come out of my ears, my eyes. And I gained momentum. I said I should use this life, this suffering, these problems as a stepping stone to help myself and help others. In the refugee camp, I saw people living with HIV and AIDS. I saw families being affected by this disease. I saw, homes being broken in pieces because of challenges of life and so on. And this motivated me to think of creating something that can respond to this need. And this is what motivated me to create Peace Club in Zambia.
That's amazing. What an amazing story. So you started by launching 3 Peace Clubs.
Yes.
And tell us about when that happened and then what happened after that.
Okay. I formed Peace Club in 2006 in Zambia.
Okay.
And we started with 3 schools.
Okay.
And as you know, any human being has 2 seeds in his life or her life. The seed of violence and the seed of peace. Now, it depends on which seed are you watering. And this can be seen now in the fruit that comes into your behavior, into your actions. So the mandate of peace is to encourage people to water the seeds of peace which are in our lives, in our hearts. And when this happens, people around the community, people in Zambia, they saw the fruits that were coming out of the seed of peace. And these were some of the changes that were happening in the families, in the community, in the schools. And this attracted the attention of so many schools and so many countries. And the Peace Club now expanded from 3 schools to 650 schools in the continent.
That's
and
amazing.
In 15 countries in Africa.
Wow. All from the work that you began.
Yes.
That's amazing. Now, the really fun part, the part that I'm excited for you to hear about, is the connection that we have to Issa through his work. So can you tell us a little bit about the funding and the support that you received to enable you to multiply those Peace Clubs?
That's a good question. Before I created this organization called Peace Club, I was funded by the Mennonite Central Committee to do 3 months training in peace and conflict resolution.
Okay.
So, and when I finished, I shared my vision with the Mennonite Central Committee that this is the dream that I have. And the Mennonite Central Committee, they said, we are very much ready to support your dream. And I got 100% support, financial support from Mennonite Central Committee, Zambia, to start these 3 clubs in Lusaka, which is the capital city of Zambia. So when the fruits were seen, the fruit of peace were seen in these 3 schools, the demand was so high, whereby we were unable to meet the demand of the people because of the limited financial support. And we shared this idea with the Mennonite Central Committee, and the Mennonite Central Committee did their initiative that we don't know, this is within the system. And after 2006, we got our support was, was increased. And this allowed us to expand the peace clubs from the capital city to other provinces in Zambia. It was just recently when the Mennonite Central Committee, Zambia, disclosed these secrets to us to say the funding that you got to expand from the 3 schools to other schools came from the meeting house. And this was my first time to hear about the meeting house. So I'm so thankful for the support that we are getting from the meeting house. This has helped us to expand our peace clubs from 3 to 650 in the continent.
So let's just pause there. That's amazing, hey? So it really is through our partnership with Mennonite Central Committee over the years that we have been connected to Issa's work without even really knowing it until very recently. So there was a small amount of money from our Mission 2 that went to multiplying peace clubs. And now, through our Mission Transform, if you're ever checking out the list of 14 projects that we support through MCC, there is a bunch of peace clubs that we are now supporting. Almost $200,000 of our $2 million commitment to MCC is going to peace clubs in South Africa, Zambia, and Zimbabwe that would have all found their roots in Issa's initial peace work. Another really fun connection is that MCC pulls together once a year something called the South Africa Peace Institute, which Issa is a part of, and involved in training trainers. So MCC would invite its partner leaders in their organizations to come and participate and learn best practices and the curriculum that Issa teaches in order to take it back into their countries and the contexts and the programs that they are running. And one person in particular who has studied under Issa is our friend, Kuda, who visited us this time last year. So some of you may have remembered Kuda because he is involved in very significant peace work in Zimbabwe, specifically with key community leaders developing nonviolent conflict resolution methodologies. And so to know that Kuda was one of Issa's students is really encouraging to me to figure out there are so many connections and relationships that not only we are developing with MCC partners in Southern Africa, but they are developing with each other as well. So I think this is just so exciting for us to learn about.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah. So maybe I think something that we will still struggle to understand a little bit is the connection between a peace club and HIV and AIDS. So can you help us understand the importance of peace clubs in rebuilding communities that have been maybe fractured by AIDS?
Okay, thank you so much for the question, Amanda. One of the approach or one of the intervention of peace clubs in the community, which is linked to HIV and AIDS, is the family issues. After carrying out a research in Zambia, we discovered that one of the reasons why the rate of HIV and AIDS is very high is the inequality between men and women, because men are considered as the head of the houses in families in Africa, and they have so many powers. And we have even some traditional expressions that allow men to to go out with other women, and this should not affect the family or the marriage. And allow me to share with you this expression, which is in Ibemba. This is one of the local language in Zambia, and I'll translate it in English for your sake. We have one expression which says, "Ubuchende wa mwaume tabuononga inganda." This means the misbehavior, the immorality of a man should not affect the marriage. And children are taught this expression, adults are taught this expression, and it encourages men to misbehave in their lives. And this increases the level of HIV and AIDS. One of the work of peace clubs, we bring men and women together, and we empower them with the skills of gender equality, and we try to address these norms and the traditions and the cultures that are, bring divisions and creating this inequality in the homes. And this helps at least men to respect women in their marriages. And on top of that, we also encourage, young adults, to go out there and share the message of peace with some of the orphans who lost their parents because of HIV and AIDS. These are living on the streets. Why they are living on the streets? Because in African tradition, we don't have orphanages. Actually, when both parents die, children are divided in families. And when they are divided in families, most of the time, these guardians, they will support their children and abuse the orphans, And these orphans, after experiencing this kind of abuse, they decided to leave homes, and then they started living on the streets. So these are some of the issues that we address, because the young people who are empowered in peace clubs, they go on the street and they share the message of peace with these orphans, and then they decide to come back to school. And we connect them with the Mennonite Central Committee so that they are supported in schools and they finish their education, and at the end of their studies, they are employed and they become responsible citizens in their families. So these are some of the issues that we are trying to address. And on top of that, we have a third section in our peace clubs, which is called gender conflict related issues. And it covers also sexual, education. And this helps young people to behave in a very responsible way. And this is how I can explain the link between peace clubs and the HIV and AIDS.
Thank you. Can we thank Issa for coming to be with us today and for teaching us? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you want to talk about
before we conclude
our
dialogue, I have something here for you. Not you as Amanda, but I have something for the meeting house. You can have ideas, you can have dreams, but you need the support. You need this financial support for you to achieve your dream. So had it not been the meeting house, we are going to be stuck and operating only in Zambia and in the capital city. But because of the support, the financial support we got from the meeting house through Mennonite Central Committee, today we are counting 650 peace clubs in 13 African countries. And because of that, I have these buttons, which is Peace Club membership, that I want to give to the meeting house as a symbol, as a sign of saying, thank you for your support. And we are inviting you to join us as members of Peace Club in accomplishing and in achieving and in addressing so many issues that are surrounding this world. So here is the button. And on top of the button, I have also a t-shirt that I would like to give you as a sign of saying thank you for your financial support, you as a representative of the meeting house.
Yeah, thank you so much, Issa.
You are welcome.
Thank you. If you are just joining us within the last year, you may not have heard that we support MCC's work on a yearly basis, and this is the time of year when we do that. The name of our campaign is called AIDS Care, and I think I'd just like to start off this section by playing a video for you.
Well, for me, really, the church is global. And the world is getting smaller and smaller every day. Why can't we actually show the world that we belong to each other?
AIDS Care Kits and Cards enable us to resource the life-changing work that MCC is doing in 6 countries across Southern Africa. Through MCC, funds become meals for orphans, peace clubs for students, and vocational training for vulnerable youth.
We have participated in AIDS Care for 6 years and are committed to supporting MCC once again. This is not something exceptional or secondary. It is the essence of how we serve God and worship our Creator.
On HIV/AIDS kits that you people, you pack from here, I hope you know what, when you are packing those kits, the impact those kits make back home. From here, you push in your soul there. Back there, it's a prayer answered.
So if you have your notes, whether paper copies or if you're tracking along on the app, scooch down to the part where it says takeout, because I'd love us all to kind of look at the section that says, be the answer to someone else's prayer. This is the time of year where we're talking about AIDS Care cards and AIDS Care kits. And this is what an AIDS Care card is. It is a $100 donation that supports all of those 14 projects that we support through MCC. And if you're ever interested in finding out what exactly those projects are, what countries they're in, and how much money we have committed to MCC to put towards those projects, you can go on our website, themeetinghouse.com/MCC, and you can read all about those projects there. The goal for AIDS Care cards this year is the same as the previous 2 years. It's 2,300 cards. Another part of AIDS Care, which is important, is collecting kits. And so you'd see in the video there were kits, and this is a kit right here where we've got practical hygiene items and small medications that we collect and then we send to Africa. And an important part of the kit is $100 that goes towards transporting the kits and also paying for education and programs to train the home-based care workers who use these kits and take them to help support and improve the quality of life of those people living with HIV and AIDS. The goal for AIDS Care kits this year is also the same as the last couple of years. It's 750 kits. So those are big numbers. What do we do with them? 750 kits, 2,300 cards. And so I've done the math, and if we divide it up evenly across all of our home churches, across all of our sites, it looks like 4 kits and 13 cards per home church. And we know that for some of you, you'll want to go way beyond that. And then for others of you, it'll be a stretch to push yourselves. But regardless, this is such a great excuse for you to invite other people to join you in your efforts, to go outside of your home church and say, let's bring in our school friends, our colleagues, and our neighbors to be a part of something really, really meaningful. Everything you need to know is on our website. The collection day is March the 8th for every site. And the other things that you will find at our website is the list of the kit contents, FAQs, those invite resources that can kind of help you creatively think of ways to fundraise and invite your friends, and the video. And so that website is themeetinghouse.com/AIDS Care. And this is our opportunity to be the answer to someone else's prayer. Issa, I wonder if you have any kind of final words or challenge for us, even as we reflect back to the verse in Romans, the passage there, about the connection between all of these things.
I would like to share just one statement which says, when God is people are in need, be ready to help them. I know it may sound very challenging for everyone here to go to Africa and help people who are in the field. You don't need that. But your help, your assistance, your financial support will reach the people who are in need in Africa through the support that you give to MCC, to the meeting house, MCC, and to the field workers who are on the ground. In this way, you are helping and assisting those who are in need. This is my last comment on this.
Great, thank you so much.
You are welcome.
Okay, well, let's wrap up this morning by praying together. Jesus, thank you so much for the privilege that it is for us to get to know Issa a little bit. His words and his actions so completely point to your goodness and is inspiring and encouraging for us to hear the work that you have done in him and through him. God, as we are humbled thinking about how we might possibly be able to be the answer to someone else's prayer, I want to thank you that Issa is the answer to our prayers. That over the years, as we have asked you to grow us and change us and stretch us to be more like you, you have provided us with the answer through Issa and through all of the others of hundreds and hundreds of people who we are connected to in Southern Africa, just like Issa. God, over the next month, as we think about practically loving other people who we may never even meet in person, through shopping and planning and fundraising, God, would you receive all of these acts as worship to you? Because you are the reason why we do all of this. We love you. Amen.